And we are live. I'm Anthony Johnson, Anthony Dream Johnson, founder and CEO of 21 Studios and the 21 Convention. And today on this episode of 21 Live, I have the one and only Richard Nikoley with me from freetheanimal.com. He's an alumni speaker of the convention and has spoken not only once, twice, but 3 times at the 21 Convention, including 2011 in Florida, 2012 in Texas, and 2017 at our 10-year anniversary special event in Orlando, Florida, the city of our founding. He's also a confirmed speaker for the 21 Convention 2019 of Warsaw, Poland, one of our 3 events this year around the world. That's going to be in Warsaw, Poland, July 18th to the 21st, 2019. Tickets on sale now at the 21convention.org. Also, there's a link in the description to that website for tickets, and his website will be added there after this broadcast ends as well. Richard, thank you for joining me.
Anthony, I was actually taken aback when you invited me to Poland. I know I've spoken 3 times before, but it's always been on peripheral things. But this is in the element exactly of what you're going for. And I was, at first I was like, oh, wow, Poland. Huh. That's interesting, and so on. I'll think about it, and so on. And then I saw your promo video. Everybody needs to watch the promo video. And I don't know how you'll take it, but when I saw it, I'm like, and you saw it. I mean, it was like, especially that last thing. We're going to Warsaw.
Yeah.
The turn of the head. We're going to Warsaw. I'm like, hey, hell or high water. I've got to be a part of this. I've got to do this. It is different for me because I'm the philosophical and political issues I'm fine with. The 3 times before I spoke, the content is so familiar with me. I can toss a presentation together in a few hours, hours before the thing, and just talk off the slides, right? This I have to get very deep because I want to explain the progression. How did we get here?
Let's clarify. So the title of this video is in quotations, The History and Cancer of Feminism. Yeah. It's in quotes because that's the title of your presentation you're going to do at the convention in Poland. So The History and Cancer of Feminism, which I'm very excited to hear myself.
Yeah. So it's like you look around and it's so bat guano crazy. I mean, it's like off the scales of what I call in terms of feminism, and to some extent, just females in general. But it's fine if it's like in a family or a household, because that's how they are. You just you deal with the thing on the road. But when it gets scaled to politics, and then gets scaled to political antagonism, I call it inch mile and cake and eat it too. Yeah. Too much is never enough, right? So to the extent, and you used my quote in one of your presentations.
Oh, my 2018 keynote, "The future is still masculine." Fuck yeah.
Yeah. The female human organism is the very most privileged organism, entitled and privileged organism to have ever existed on planet Earth. And
the quote I used, I pulled directly from your Facebook, the way you worded it. Yeah. It was that, like modern American women in particular, not that you added the in particular part, but modern American women are the most overprivileged, overprotected class of organism to have ever existed on this planet. Which I agree with. Like, I love women. I think women are fucking great, all the time. But I think this is a true statement. It's a factual statement of the world we live in right now.
Well,
and it's fucked up.
This is what 21 Studios, 21 Convention, all of your companies. I don't understand the network myself.
Yeah, I have the Redman Group now too. I have many.
But the thing is, it's very easy to label it misogynist, but that's illogical and it makes no sense, because the whole point of it from the very outset is to is out of a love of women. We love women.
Yeah, that's right.
And, you know, we ache sometimes for the love of women.
Well, I want to double down on this because I agree with you. I'm not hugely fond of saying like I love women. I say it from time to time. I do think a lot of beta males today and these Vichy males have like they overuse this word because they're constantly like in apology mode. But truly, I do like I love being around women. I love being inside. I love being inside them. All kinds of things, right?
Yeah,
But you make a good point though, because this convention started on an interest and a desire to understand women, to be closer with them, and to have better relationships with them.
Right. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah. What? In other words, we love what you love. What we love is the archetypical woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's not just the idea; it's the archetype, and it exists. We know it exists. We've seen it. We've seen it in many individuals, and we've seen it in our families, and we've seen it in our churches, and we've seen it.
When you say archetypal women, is it fair to characterize that as women acting in accordance with their nature?
Yeah,
that's how I would understand it.
Yes. And the thing is that so there's kind of this branch, if you will. So there's the archetypical woman. It's the one, it's the one who, this goes back to, it goes back to Paleolithic times, really, where we absolutely have a decent sense of how that had to absolutely have worked, with the woman being the bearer of children, sometimes gatherer, sometimes homekeeper, homemaker, and everything. And the dude is the one who goes out and risks his life to provide various forms of things. But at the same time, he has to provide not only the food and the shelter and make the, start the fires and all
defense and stuff like that too.
Right. But it is absolutely imperative that he make her, because of her burdens, her real burden. I mean, can you imagine? Like, you have children and you bear them, and you have 9 months of this thing that you have to do, and you bear them. I mean, it's a tough job. We should acknowledge that, but what we should give them in reciprocity is a feeling of safe and security. They're very emotional, right? And any hint of insecurity and safety, that's why they seek out. That's why they're hypergamic, right? They seek out males who they feel, this dude is going to make me feel safe and secure. And
well, that's one element of hypergamy. I mean, we say alpha fucks, beta bucks. That's like a huge chunk of it. They want that feeling, and they're going to get that either from men individually, or they're going to get it from daddy government or some other combination.
Well, and what I wanted to say earlier is that the previous 3 speeches were very easy to do for me. I was like, boom. This one I'm having to dig deep because because there's a lot of elements of the history. It's like, who contributed to this problem? And it's both men and women. Because if you look at it from a very logical standpoint, where men were the masters, well, they gave up all of their power, right? Which they didn't have to, because you have it. Why do you give it up, right? It's just because of people like whining and screaming. So I got to look into this, and it's there's got to be a lot of Marxist socialism ideas and intelligentsia into this. I want to dig down deep, and I'm not going to. My presentation is not going to be a college course, but I have to understand it in order to present it in a narrative way that makes perfect sense to everybody attending, and also for because what you do with your conferences is you create so there's the conference event, but you're creating content so that
that's right.
live on YouTube and the internet forever.
Yep.
And so this one will be my most very serious endeavor in.
Fuck yeah. Well, let's talk about this too, though, because this is obviously not so the 21 convention, as you know, and as you've seen, and a lot of people, I get heat on this from like both directions, right? It's not just a conference for self-improvement, which is how some people want to treat it, and that's what they want.
Sorry.
Oh, ring, ring.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've taken a lot of heat.
Put it on silent here. Hang on. There we go.
Try. So yeah, the convention is not just about, a lot of people want to push it in one direction or the other, right? They want me to just all out, just do nothing but make fun of feminism and attack it and break it down, or some combination of non-self-improvement things. But then also it had a foundation, of course, its origin was like self-improvement. But I see these as both very important, and I'm willing to go to bat for that. And that's why we have speeches like this at the convention. You know, I don't expect a guy to go to your speech and then understand how to go pick up women on the street better. That's not the purpose of your talk.
No.
But these are all these kind of speeches that are both co-occurring at the same event. And for me, that's a big part of what makes it unique and what makes it special and what makes it powerful on top of that.
Yeah.
Because I think guys, you know, they need to understand, like, why the fuck is the world the way it is now? Why are the genders at each other's throats? Why is culture collapsing in so many ways in the West? Why are there Me Too campaigns and Brett Kavanaugh smearings and, you know, 1,000 other things that feminists are fucking doing? I saw a video this morning of a feminist just recently attacking a guy in the street over an abortion thing, and she got arrested for it and stuff, which is nice. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, why is this happening? Like, why are women doing this?
There was that one where the girl took the you know, pro-life or anti-abortion, however you wish to characterize it, the sign. She took it away from him.
Yeah.
Got arrested.
Yeah. I saw that one too.
Incensed, right?
Yep.
It's
well,
like
she was stunned that there was consequences to her actions, and like that's not just a personal thing. That's like a culture-wide thing that we see.
And the cop was excellent, spot on. He's like yeah, basically, you know, to TLDR it. It wasn't about you committed larceny, right?
Yeah.
You can't take someone's property away from them. Yeah, right.
Well, feminism has turned women into absolute like violent toddlers in a lot of cases, and that's what you see. They literally, that woman was a young adult, and she decided to go steal this dude's sign on video, and then was like stunned that she was getting arrested for it. Like, yeah, duh, bitch. Like, you're a fucking idiot. You attacked somebody or stole something from them in public. Like, I hope you go to fucking jail for it because you're a fucking asshole.
Well, you know, what I would like is just to see more of that. And, you know, I'm fine with slaps on the wrist or a really, really good, they should bring them all before Judge Judy. You know.
Well, let's get into this a little more. So one of my goals with the convention, the entire mission right now is to create positive media for men and destroy the feminist establishment. Mm-hmm. Is that a mission that you're signed on for in both elements? Like, do you see those as both important?
Absolutely. And, you know, you and I talked about this privately before because you expressed a trepidation, I should say, about how my presentation would work. Because, you know, I am going to talk about the history of the 19th Amendment, and I'm going to be showing how, with the 19th Amendment, you can track the socialist everything, right? Costs, debt, everything.
Yep. Well, right? the debt has skyrocketed since the 10 years passed.
And the reason is because it's largely about things women care about, which is safety and security. But they want the government to do it. And so let's kind of hone down on that. The way I see it when you say that is that by giving women the vote, okay, let's like leave that alone for a second, but let's recognize it for what it is. You have inserted political force, them voting, political force, what their biological evolutionary desires are into the voting process, into the political sphere. Exactly. And I don't believe, I'm fine with women having the vote in and of itself, but I think what happened was no one had any deep respect for how different men and women are and what the fuck that was going to do when you did that.
There was
Right.
just a total obliviousness to the fact that men and women are different. And when you insert millions of them into this process, well, there's going to be fucking changes, and not all of them are going to be good.
Basically, well, if everybody is subservient at some level to the law, and jurisprudence, even law perfectly done, you give that what you've done is give them a weapon against their own families.
Yep.
Right? You have given them a weapon. You've put a wedge in there and then given them a weapon to use against the well, I mean, maybe you don't like the term head of household, and that's fine. You can be partners, whatever. But it must have been, and this is something I have to research. It must have been at a point that it was kind of one family, one vote. So say
totally. I know for a fact that's how it was. That's how it was viewed. The man voted on behalf of his family.
So the man voted on behalf of the betterment of his family, right? Whereas women comes along at points, and it's a progression. It's a long history, right? I mean, you look at the 1940s and 50s, and families were pretty pristine still, right? And perhaps maybe then, even though women were voting, they were basically voting what their husbands voted, right? But
I actually
now,
have a story with that. I think you'd find this interesting. So my grandmother, who was born a fucking long time ago, she's dead now, but she died in 91 in 2011, I believe. So when she was alive, there was a whole story with this. She was trapped in Yugoslavia and under communist rule and all this stuff. My grandfather got her out, and my uncle brought him to New York, all this stuff, right? But I know for a fact that for decades before my grandfather died of esophagus cancer, because he used to paint ships and shit, she would vote however he told her to. And she was not only happy with that, that's like what she wanted to do, to the point that when he died, she then asked my uncle, like her oldest son, right, in the family, how she should vote. And they would talk about it, they would argue about stuff, but she looked to him for guidance on what to do with this. And no one told her. Now, a feminist would scream, this is like internalized patriarchy, all this fucking bullshit. I think it's a wrong mischaracterization of it. This is what she wanted to do, and this is how she was raised, and her very old school values back in Croatia in the early 1900s. And that today would be like, most young women would just scoff at that. But I think that's fucking stupid. That's exactly how women should act. They should look to the men in their lives for leadership and for guidance.
Yeah.
And then do with it what they will. She didn't have to do that. She didn't have to do what my uncle said. That's her son. That's what she chose to do, and that's what she wanted to do. And I think it's very feminine. And she was the best woman I've ever fucking known, to put matter of fact to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So to wrap up what I was saying earlier about the trepidation. I'm not one of these guys that's going to go out there and say we need to repeal the 19th Amendment and da 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 da. That is cat's out of the bag. What you have to deal with is the facts on the ground. So part of the other thing I want to develop in this presentation is how do we get back and encourage a one family, one vote, right? And you know what? If you're more conservative, traditional values, classical liberalism, wherever you are on that spectrum, you're just not a leftist and a commie and so on. Then it should be easy. It should be a very powerful thing to get families to vote in the same thing, and also the children. Right? And educate the children, because they're going to be voters too. And you educate. We're voting as a familial block here, and here's why. Because
I want to hammer down on this too. Like that little story I gave my grandma, and based on what you're saying here, I think the happiest women in the world are ones who look to and have in the first place, of course, because they've acted in a way that will bring that into their life. They have strong men in their lives, and they look to those men for leadership and for guidance. Like, that's why they want to do this. It makes them happy. My grandmother was an amazing woman who was a very happy woman, I would say, at a very deep, genuine level. And I think this is part of it. They want that leadership in their lives. And when they don't have it, that's when they get bitchy and annoying and stuff.
Well,
So
I'll tell you what, something, and you, I have a couple of candidate speakers out to you in, that you're reviewing, right?
for Poland, yeah.
Yes. And, but one of them is actually a consultant. You can call him a coach or whatever. And I've done a few sessions with him, Noah. And one thing I've learned from him very, very profoundly, and I think this is part of the issue that's in the progression, is that he insists that your role as a male, when you have established a relationship with a woman, and then leading on into a family and children and everything, it is paramount, number one, that you do not burden her with your emotions. Everybody has emotions, right? But she is not your counselor, right? You go to guys for counseling. If you need to offload or something, you need some advice, you go to guys. You do not go to your woman because she is going to maybe you feel fear, maybe you feel trepidation, maybe you feel uncertainty. You burden her with that, it's like magnified 3 times.
Oh, totally. Yeah, I mean, women look up to you as a man. Like you that's like going to a child and asking them for like emotional guidance.
Right.
It's inappropriate. They don't like it. It's like women who, the beta male cringy behavior you see at the most extreme level. That's what that is when you go to a woman, in my opinion, for like leadership like that, emotional.
And so part of your provider security, all of this role, reciprocal with her home management, home economics. Remember, that used to be a course in school that they taught girls, home economics, right?
Dude, we had, even when I was a kid, there was still home ec in middle school, but I think it's gone now.
Yeah,
that was like in the early 2000s. It was going away.
Right. So that's the reciprocal thing. And so, but part of your role is also to be a heat sink, I suppose, for her emotions, so that she feels safe and secure. I mean, even if the reality is not that, they're solipsist anyway, right? So, but you can use that instead of saying, oh, you're solipsist, which is like, what is in your mind is the total reality. That's the easy way to understand that term. But maybe it's not, but if she feels safe and secure anyway, she will be better, and it will be more helpful, and it won't be undermining, and it won't be trying to, sabotage you and all of this other stuff. So these are elements I'm trying to bring into this presentation.
Yeah. And
it's tough because there's a lot to cover.
Yep.
And
I've done a few talks myself on feminism, and I know there's so much to pack in on top of and historically as well as current events that demonstrate a lot of this stuff. So it's tough to put it together.
Yeah. So what I've just described is like the home front of that. But if you look at it if you scale to society, so then you begin. So this is my kind of working hypothesis. Everything for this presentation is, if you scale that to society, where was it that women in general felt so disenfranchised, right? So where did they send, or were they just like agitated, right, through media and so on, by operators, and then there's the hypothesis, or no, parentheses element too. That's another thing I'm looking at. Yeah.
I'm part
right?
Jewish myself, by the way.
What?
Ashkenazi all the way.
You are? Okay, well, but
Yep.
anyway, well, I just telling you, I'm looking at it. So the as strategy, you know, what was there was a strategy. It wasn't just tactics. This was a global strategy with geopolitical implications.
Yep.
Um,
No, feminism has changed the course of Western, for the worse, in my opinion, strongly,
Yeah.
has changed the course of Western civilization. It's every
Yeah.
country. And not just America, obviously. It's Canada, the UK, all these places.
Well, and then go to Poland. I was just watching a thing this morning that I loved, and I hadn't finished watching it. I'm only about halfway through. It's a 11-minute video. But it's this guy talking about the Hungarian program where if you have I think 4 children, you're tax free for life.
Oh yeah, they just did that. Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
Yeah. And how the BBC and all the more Western media is just up in arms about that because they have billboards and it's like a white dude and a white grandfather and a white grandmother and a white wife and a white baby, and it's like, oh, you know, where are the transgenders, right? When are you going to give that baby a sex change operation and so on? That's why I'm talking about of how it's gone so bat guano crazy. And that you're just like, it's like.
So in your opinion, do you think that, because I mean, I'm just a loaded question, but has feminism led to a lot of these other bizarre things we see in culture? Like the PC police, like the SJWs, like the crazy overboard tranny stuff.
Yeah, and that's just one other thing I'm trying to integrate and chew on to prepare for this is survival strategy, right? So males have survival strategies, females have survival strategies. So when survival strategies for females are more like I've got to, you know, classically way back when, I've got to pick a decent dude who can provide, and hopefully he has a good family. And so, you know, that's why you see the families, right? Because you want to know that the family is generally on the same board, so that you have shared values. And when you have shared values, reciprocity is easy, right? So I do for you, you do for me. When you try to put a square peg in a round hole, you end up with values that are either incompatible or sometimes they're completely at odds. Completely at odds. So there's no the reciprocity doesn't work there then anymore with the whole family, you know, with her family, your family, the grandkids, everything.
Well, I even think about it on a macro scale. Like what came to mind when you said that was the incompatibility in values between believe evidence and believe women.
Right.
It's like these are not compatible at all. One of these is a legal principle where we focus on reality, where we believe evidence.
And
women on the feminists on the hand of now they focus on believing women, so they want to believe, you know, just words out of someone's mouth over evidence, which is fucking crazy. This is what feminism has drove women to do.
And that's the silly thing. And they embrace these things and they tweet out the hashtags believe women. And you have even all the cucks doing that. By the way, before I forget, you got my memo on the next hat design for you.
Oh yeah, I saw something come. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Feminism cucks. That's a good play on words, right? But I love that part of the promo video. You know, when the countries explode, cucked. You know,
it's funny, but it's funny in part because it's true. Like it's really what's happening.
You know, I mean, we talk about soy boys and all of that stuff, and you know, the unfortunate part about that, from I think I guess loosely stated the red pill movement, is that, okay, if you're not a soy boy, you have to be an asshole, right? And so that I've actually seen that a couple times here and there. I was just dealing with a friend this morning who had a breakup, and she feels scared, right? And so, texting me and so on, and because he's like super red pilled, right? So, but it's over the top where he strikes fear into her a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So that shouldn't be the thing as well. Where do you go? Where is this balance? But certainly you don't hold up a sign and say believe women. I mean, that's just and especially for a man to say that. So firstly, it's dishonest and it's disingenuous, because surely he has been in relationships with a woman before. Well, maybe not, but who knows? If they have, then they certainly know that just because she says something, it's to be believed. Like, especially when she accuses you of doing something out of her solipsist mind, which you absolutely know that didn't happen. But
well, the irony is that they'll say that men are liars and assholes. These women who say believe women, but then they want to say they want to be treated equally, is what they proclaim, right? It's like, well, if you're equal to a man in your fucking mind, right? How are you not capable of lies and bullshit? Like, apparently you're some fucking angel snowflake and women are not full of shit and don't lie like men. No, it's bullshit. I believe in some cases, I do believe in equality. I believe women are equally capable at minimum of bullshitting and lies and all this fucking fake, all false rape allegations, false domestic violence accusations, on and on down the line. And like that equality, and of course, in my opinion, feminism has never been about equality. That's a lie. That's a cover. And this is one of the ways you see it, right? They don't say believe men, they say believe women only, because they're fucking control freaks and they're fucking crazy and they're liars.
No, it's certainly not about equality. It is about inch mile and cake eat it too. That's what it is all about, because it will never be enough.
Yeah, good. I was just thinking that.
There's no there's no negotiation with them, right? Yeah. The 19th Amendment was the negotiation, right?
Well, the question is, when is feminism going to end?
Never.
Never.
It's an industry. It's an industry. It's an industry of oppression. Same thing as like racism. Same thing, right? Same thing as with now immigration, right? So, we've come to the point with immigration where literally elected officials who have sworn, which it should be, if you're an elected official that has some oversight, either in enforcement or prosecution of the law, then that's what you're sworn to do. That's your job. And they're saying, no, we're going to create a sanctuary. We're simply going to ignore the law, right? Instead of saying, well, all right, we disagree with this law, so we're going to agitate or lobby or whatever to change this law, right? Yeah. So then we're confronted now with a lot of things from the left, where they are actually saying, let's live in a lawless society, and it's not well-formed anarcho-capitalism or anything like that. They're not saying, well, let's have lawfulness, but let's have alternate means, via private security or, what have private courts and everything to it. But you have to. You must have.
Well, I think boundaries are a very masculine thing
for enforcing them and managing that. Or you don't have a society. Then you have something else, and there's many places in the world where you can go to check out how that is.
Yeah, just a shithole that's collapsed. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I've talked with one of our speakers on an interview I did, Elliot Hulse, and we were talking about feminism and stuff. And basically, what we're talking about is how feminism is like, not just feminism, but even women they don't like boundaries. They don't like setting boundaries. In fact, they like whatever boundaries they have, they like breaking them for what they consider to be alpha males or strong men in their lives. It's a very enjoyable process for them, especially in the heat of the moment, having sex.
Exactly.
But when that's now applied into voting and the political spectrum, it's very dangerous. And what that culminates in my opinion, is like open borders and shit. Literally the erasure of borders and the existence geographically of a country.
Well,
Yeah, they're not into boundaries. It's a very masculine thing to have strength. Boundaries, I think, are a form of strength. You know, I think you need masculinity to do that, which they don't have.
one of the telltales of feminism inch mile cake and eat it too thing is watching what's going on with abortion now, right?
Yeah.
Right, and it's become a big football again. And you know, I was always a guy who was like, here's how what I thought about it in like three ways. Number one, I'm a male, so to the extent it's not my kid, I don't have much standing in it. And two is that, young girls are faced with kind of a pretty nefarious thing. You know, their hormones are raging just like guys are, and they're just as irresponsible as guys are. So they can do stupid stuff young, just like guys can. And I always thought, well, just all right, you made a mistake. Then if you don't want to continue with that, just at least get it over with really quick. And three, don't do it again. Don't do it again. Use birth control, whatever like that. Don't use abortion for birth control. So I was always like amenable to that. And I've had girlfriends in the past that had one abortion very young and did exactly that. They're not proud of it, right? They have some regrets. They did it. They moved on. They never did it again, right? So that's my context of like, okay, you don't have to be crazy about this. But now the stuff we see now, we're back into the bad guano crazy mode, where it's like abortion up to when it's coming out.
Right? Yeah. Murder. Yeah, it's infanticide. It's fucking nuts.
Women standing up saying, I'm proud I had an abortion, or even I regret that I've never had the privilege of having an abortion. Now that's just surreal, and that's exposing to me a very evil nature. Yeah.
Vicious.
Right? Not, hey, I made a mistake and I regret and da. But no, I'm proud I had an abortion, or I wish I had the privilege to have an abortion, right? Yeah. And then an advocacy of, abort all babies, especially abort white babies. What are we going to do? Be China, where they abort females, right?
Yep. Yeah, so, it's really bizarre to see all that stuff. What's interesting too to me though is that women, at least right now, what they want is unilateral control over aborting becoming a parent. But men, of course, don't have this option. Right. Even though it's their DNA in a woman, they don't have, at least in America. Other countries, there is some say, like I think Japan is an example. But in America, that man has no ability to decide or stop what happens to the baby in progress, right? And he has no ability to opt out of being a father. He can't say, well, I give up parental rights and I'm not going to pay any child support. That option's not on the table. Whereas the mother, the woman, can opt out of becoming a mother at any point. And she wants it to be, of course, consequence-free. She wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants to act like an irresponsible dumbass and then get away with it.
Cake and eat it too. Exclusive control over whether she aborts or not.
Yep.
And if she decides to keep it, the ability to use the legal system to enslave the guy, whether he wanted it or not, whether he made just as much of a silly mistake in a bar, drunken thing or whatever, or even not, even well, and this whole thing extends into the family situation, and part of the problem is that in this whole progression of feminism where women have replaced a man in the home. And hey, if he's bad, leave. Find someone else. Talk to your dad and your uncles and make sure you're protected if he's violent, whatever.
Well, the question is then, why was she fucking that guy in the first place?
Well,
this is very consistent. That women want to have sex with these guys. They want to feel that danger. He comes inside of them 57 times. Surprise, there's a baby, and surprise, he's a piece of shit.
And then then they get to control him. No, I mean there's tons of social issues. I mean, some people just turn dad, both men and women.
No, totally, that happens too.
They turn dad. Something happens, right?
I think in most cases, though, the women know these dudes are bad boys. I mean, it's not. They just there's a cognitive dissonance with it. They don't want to acknowledge it until there's a problem. And then they're like, "Oh man, this guy has 3 baby mamas and spent 5 years in jail for a violent crime. Surprise, he's abusive and gonna leave me." Yeah, no shit. I'm sure it was fun though.
I mean, there's tons of guys out there. And I even know I have one in my family. I'm not gonna say which side or anything, that has 5 kids from 3 different women.
Yep.
And so it's just something that it's so anti-civilization.
Yeah.
For me.
What's interesting too, on the anti-civilization front with it is that you never see these women, super rare. I've almost never even heard it discussed. They're not focused on the rule of law. So being pro-civilization, and that would, in my opinion, firmly, it's that the federal government doesn't have any right to be involved in abortion at all.
Well, it should be.
The Constitution is the federal Constitution is the supreme law governing the federal government. There's zero authority to do anything with abortion. Supreme Court justices, even the one recently who died, Antonio Scalia, I think, was on camera in 2009 or some shit talking about this. It's obvious that the federal government doesn't have any business in it, which means it's a state's issue. But they don't want to advocate for that because they don't care about the rule of law.
It's hilarious. I mean, you take your bread and butter crimes, larceny, assault, battery, murder, homicide, all of that. There's no conflict. There's no dispute that this is not a federal case every time. The states deal with this. In fact, it's even closer to home than that. The counties deal with it. It's a county court, city police and investigators and DAs and so on investigate this stuff. But abortion, which there's a legitimate argument. Here's the thing. Number one, it is absolute abortion, at least, once it's actually a fetus and not just a few cells. Right. So, it's a killing. That's absolute. Nobody could logically dispute that. Now, whether it's a justifiable killing, which is or manslaughter or homicide, these are things states do every single day.
Yep.
When people kill other people, right? So
each state has specific laws governing this and consequences and penalties and all kinds of issues.
Absolutely, the federal government get out of it and leave it to the states. Right?
Well, my thought here too, though, is I've never seen anyway, I'm sure it's been done somewhere, but I've never seen in popular culture women try to fight for an amendment to the Constitution to make abortion legal. Or whatever. They don't give a shit. The fact that it's not part of the governing document of the country, it seems just irrelevant to them because they're not focused on the rule of law. They're not focused on boundaries. They just want to get whatever's on their mind. They just want to get it immediately and fuck the rule of law and fuck the Constitution and fuck all that shit.
Well, you've seen that the charts are coming out now. You can find them anywhere. But in various places, people have gone in and because some municipalities or states actually document what the reason for an abortion is, right?
Oh yeah, I saw the Florida one. Yeah, from Charlie Kirk.
Yeah. So it's it's not even less than 1%. It's less than 1%.
Yep.
But it's like 1 out of 1,000 cases, something like that, are overt rape or incest. And then you go up the scale, and then it comes out to roughly 98-ish% where it's just like, because I want an abortion.
Yep.
Right. Yep. But then you go to the political side of it, and the narrative and the political antagonism. 80% of the argument is about rape and incest.
Yep. Now that's abusing an outlier to form an argument. So that's some sort of logical fallacy, right? Like a red herring or something.
So that's my problem. So I actually put this in a Facebook comment yesterday. I said, you know what? I'm fine with the death penalty for abortion until the argument is honest and not disingenuous. So just argue that we want an abortion because we just want it. You know,
Yep.
we don't want to bother with birth control. We don't want to bother with anything like that. We just want an abortion, right?
Well, I think what this brings to mind is that feminism, not only does it make women worse, my opinion, and I'm sure you would agree, but it attracts the worst woman too. And then and then on top of that makes them even worse. I think that's why you see this. Like they're so fucking illogical and they're so dishonest. They always lie. They don't have any interest in the rule of law. They don't have any interest in facts. All they do is they have like a goal that comes into their mind. That's all they fucking want. And they're going to lie, manipulate, and bullshit to get it, however long they have to do it. So yeah, fuck them. I agree. Yeah, death penalty for it. Go ahead. Fuck it.
There we go. What else, Anthony?
Yeah, let's talk about, so I think this is a very related topic to your presentation in Poland is going to be the history and cancer of feminism. Fuck yeah. But you are also, most people might not know this, you are the reason that I have this hat on my head. You are the man who posted I don't know if you had one or anyway, you posted a photo of a similar one.
We talked about this in the interview I did, so let's just redo that. So, so my frenemy, I should say, Megan Usui, you know her, Kurt Doolittle fan, you know, that whole propertarianism thing, and she's a cool chick, and she you know, we bet. So yesterday when I told her about this thing yesterday, so she messaged me in Facebook. She says, "Don't give away the farm for your presentation in Poland." You know, so in a sense, she's always looking out for me, right? That's months ago, she posted a thing on her Facebook wall. And I can't remember what it was like. I think here's what it was. It was kind of like a what is it, like a bromide? Really, it's like, you know, all, you know, take it or leave it kind of shot. Like men should focus on their what was it, honor or, you know, nobility. That's what it was. Men should focus on nobility, and women should focus on their joy, you know, meaning that she finds a noble man and that she's joyful. I had a couple quibbles with it, but then she wrote quite a long paragraph and explaining it. And I read it a couple times. And I'm like, she's dead on, right? She's dead on with that. I really liked it. And it snapped into my head, make women great again. And I'm a very impulsive sort of dude, so I'm sitting right where I'm sitting now, and I just jump on the computer. I go to one of those places where you can get your own T-shirt or hat made, and I'm like, "Make women great again," and I mailed it to her, and then she posted it. She said, "Richard, WTF am I supposed to do with this?" Right? But then you saw it and everyone, and that's how it took off. So
no, it was really important to me when I saw it. Like I knew that whole night, the night I found it, I don't know what, it was in the evening, maybe 8 o'clock I found it PM. And just the rest of the night, I was like, I just kept chewing on it. I'm like, that fucking phrase, like, holy shit. It's so perfect in so many ways. I'm building a whole conference with it, as you know, the 22 convention.
Yes.
Make Women Great Again.
Yes, and that's so my Poland presentation is to audition to speak at that one.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yeah, that actually might happen sooner than I intended, which is the original intent was to do 22Con in the spring of 2020. And I don't have any firm announcements yet, but it might happen sooner than that. And if it does, I'll let you and everyone else know as well.
I'm there.
But I love it. I think it's one of the most important phrases you could possibly have in culture right now. Like
Yes.
men, we need to make men great again too, but we've already been doing that for a long time. That's not a controversial statement. Like nobody hears make men great again. No one flips their shit, not men or women, right? For different reasons too.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Let me throw this out there. This just popped into my head.
Yeah.
But I think women have proven that women are incompetent and incapable of leading women back to being great again.
Totally.
Men. It's going to men.
I agree. And I do think that women should mentor younger women, especially grandmothers, aunts, mothers, ideally, if you didn't, fuck that whole process up. And a lot of women do. No one wants to say that mothers are the sacred cow, but a lot of women are bad mothers at the end of the day, and they don't raise their sons and daughters right. They don't follow the lead of a husband and the father and stuff, and they create a lot of trauma for their children this way. They set a bad example is what they're doing. But yeah, I think the evidence for I think what you're saying is that women have demonstrably failed to police feminism, the excesses and the insanity of it for decades upon decades upon decades. Even from the 19th Amendment at that point. A lot of women opposed the 19th Amendment because they thought they were going to get drafted in the fucking military. They were like, yo, fuck this. We don't want to do it. But the feminists, of course, assured them that they would just get their cake and eat it too, which they did, unfortunately, which is for the worst of everybody.
And there's only one Talia, and she can't do the whole thing because she's been beating this drum forever and ever and ever. Man worship. Well, not even Ayn Rand was the one who coined the term, man worship way back when. But these sort of intellectual females who understand history and civilization and understand how the entire everything, soup to nuts, is created by men.
Yep.
All of it, right? And it's so hilarious. They go to a movie. It's like, oh, these three chicks did all the calculations so we could go to the moon and stuff like that. This is like abject, ridiculous nonsense, right? Sure, they were helpful, right? They were human calculators or computers at the time, right?
Yep.
But they keep pumping these ideas into little girls, and and then how it gets emphasized is that, oh, see, it's a patriarchy because we couldn't have gone to the moon without these three women or four, whatever it was, right?
Yeah.
So we're very oppressed, right? And that's been hidden.
It's all projection too. I mean, women are the oppressors today in Western culture, and you see that through movements like Me Too, which is a control movement, and all this other crap. Yeah, I wanted to address something. There was a commenter here in the chat too. He earlier was bitching about how saying we love women is like gynocentrism or some shit. And I think in some cases, people saying that would be the case, like the Good Man Project and like these fucking purple pill bullshit, cuck bullshit that these organizations do. But when I say it, I don't know about you, Richard, but I'm coming from the position of loving women to the point that I'm willing to criticize them very sharply in public and take them to task on what their mistakes. That's tough love, but that needs to fucking happen. On top of enjoying their company and the benefits they bring to my life. Like
that is parental love. That's grandparental love. That's the kind of love where it's like, it's not just infatuation. It's like, it's not just I'm not saying, oh, I love pussy. Everybody, all males, love that, right? They love that. But what is that's why I said archetype. You know, it's the yin yang. She has that other side, you know, and you have that other side, and it works. You know, it's millions of years of evolution, right?
Yep.
It works, right? That's why we're here, because it works. And so what we're talking about, is the destruction, the literal destruction on the basis of a bunch of intellectual New York lefty commies, right? With their silly ideas, right? So to try to not just deconstruct, not just undermine, but literally destroy the foundation of what it is that got us here. So I should grab my Bible. I have a Bible on the shelf over here.
I'm guessing you're not a Christian.
What? No.
I know.
Bible from when I was a kid, right? So I'm pounding the pulpit, pounding the Bible, right? So, you know, just metaphorically, of course. But yeah, this stuff can make me riled up and get excited without profanity. I quit using profanity. Is an experiment.
Don't worry, I got you covered. Don't worry.
What's that?
Don't worry, I got the profanity covered.
Yeah, I know, you got it covered. Right? You got it covered. It's
no, but this is a good point. I mean, what comes to mind when you're saying this is that civilization comes from men and women and coming together, fucking and making babies and making families.
Yes.
And then that creates a small polity, a small political entity, which then forms governments and civilizations and empires and all kinds of stuff. And that's what they're attacking. They're attacking that.
This is one reason why a lot of areas of old Europe are still doing pretty fine. You go to the South and everything. You go to like, you know, you stay away from the politics, but you go out to the countryside. You know, you know, you're talking about Poland. I was talking about Hungary. You got to Greece, Spain, southern Spain, Portugal, all these places, France, Italy. You know, what you find is a lot of really extended families. It's its own kind of fiefdom, political structure, so on and so forth. And then if you create a village with a lot of these families together, there is the sharing of values. And when you have the sharing of values, then you have easy reciprocity. You know, everyone's doing stuff for someone else all the time. And sometimes it involves trade, where there's my work for your work sort of thing. And then there's trade in goods, you know, some specialization, you know, my eggs for your cheese, you know, that sort of thing. And then it actually, then you have money. And so then you can have trade and all these things. Well, this is the foundation of human civilization, right?
Well, I think what you also see, though, what I was thinking of is that you see a trade of values and of ideas.
Yes.
And that is like collapsed in a lot of America and a lot of the West. Like you don't see that as much. And the result is you have young women who value being like a legal secretary over becoming a mother, or being an assistant manager at Starbucks over having babies in the most prime, fertile, beautiful years of your life. The most healthy years of your life to give you the best chance of having a successful pregnancy and a healthy child. Like, when you go to Poland, you see that too, though. These women, they still have a high reverence and a high respect for becoming a mother. And that's like so alien to me in America. Like you don't see that as much anymore. It's crazy.
Yeah. And that was the norm. You had your first kid between 18 and 22, you know, basically pretty much everybody, right?
Yeah. Yep.
You got married, you know, and you had a baby, and then, you know, my mom had 4 of them, but let's see. So I think she had all 4 of us before she was 30.
Wow. Yeah, there you go. Yep. My grandma was pretty similar too. She had my uncle at 16. She got married at 15, I think, and then had my uncle at 16. And then my aunt and my mom were born later, but yeah, it was normal back then. Yeah.
I was privileged to have a great grandmother until I was about 29.
Damn.
And she was very lucid until I was about like 25-ish, right?
Nice.
Last few years were sketchy, but The reason is because she had my grandmother. Well, let's see, she was born in 1906, I believe, or 1903, and had my grandmother in 1919. So it was like she was like 15, 16 when she had my grandmother. So, you know, they were close their whole lives because they weren't that far. They weren't so far apart they couldn't be sisters, right?
Yep. Dude, I'm 30 now, and I have an uncle who's like 82, 83 years old or something.
Really?
Yeah, he's my uncle, like 100%. I've known him my whole life, and he's still doing well, obviously. But the age difference is huge. I mean, I have a cousin. I have my first cousin who's like 55 or something.
My dad is 51. My mom's 77, and they're still growing strong. They're still traveling all over the country in their big land yacht, right?
Yeah.
The big pickup truck with the big fifth wheel behind it, going all over. You know, they went all the way to Orlando last year, all the way up to Maine, and then back over 6 months. And so they're still going strong, right? And yeah, it's amazing. Longevity is pretty cool in my neck of the woods. I'm very fortunate that all of my grandparents lived in the 80s, all four of them. I have one of them was great grandmother. My great grandmother, my dad's grandmother. I never met her. She was in Germany, but she lived in 96. So I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy about that. All that, right?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man.
Plus my mom's dad, which is where the genes come from for hair. He lived into his 80s. He had a full head of hair over in his 80s. Got leukemia. Got the chemo. Went bald. Grew it all back before he died. So
damn, holy shit, that's pretty dope.
All right, so we both bragged about our families. Good.
Yeah.
That's great, and that kind of goes to what the whole message is, really, right? Doesn't it? Right?
Absolutely.
We need to be, you're not bragging about the boss, or the high-powered lawyer or the doctor or whatever. You're bragging about your own kin, your own family, and that reciprocity where you have values. I know so many people that in families, and politically, they're outcasts from each other because I just had a friend this morning message me, it's some stuff, but she couldn't get help from her family because she's a Trump supporter.
Yeah.
Right? Imagine that.
Yeah, the tolerant left wouldn't tolerate a different opinion. Interesting. Yeah. That's so surprising. Yeah. Imagine my shock. Yeah. Let's shift gears. So we've talked about feminism. We've talked about your upcoming presentation at the convention. We've talked about Make Women Great Again. I mean, it's a whole fucking thing in itself. Like I'm so in love with that. I wear this hat all the time because I fucking like it. It's awesome. I think it's what I was getting at too with it, and I'm very thankful that you gave me the idea for it. I think it's the perfect antidote for women today. Like this is an exact kind of idea and a thrust and a direction and a movement that they need. I can't wait to have hundreds of women wearing a pink MAGA, Make Women Great Again MAGA hat in the near future. We're gonna have that at 22Con. Yeah, and it's in my experience too. It's actually women are very receptive to it. Women pick. Oh yeah, I mean some women get very triggered by it, but it's actually a minority. Most of them are curious, or they ask questions or whatever. But a lot of them just take it and put it on. Like I've seen women grab that hat, snatch it, and put it on their head, blink of a fucking eye.
I'll tell you what, when you send me out mine, I'm gonna get some cards made up, and with the website address that you have for it for the upcoming presentation. Yeah, I'm gonna tell. It'll say something like, go here.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's just 22convention.com, 22convention.com. Yeah,
that's 22. Yeah.
Let's before we hop off though, before we round out, let's talk about your experience previously at the convention. You've been to 3 of them now. Like, what are your thoughts on your experiences at 21Con and how you've seen it change over the years? I know you've watched not only at the events, you've seen it evolve on the internet too over time.
Well, the very first time at in Orlando, that's 2011. I was just a couple years into the paleo blogging. I had success. I low carb paleo, lost 60 pounds. But, I have a certain internet style and presence, and that seemed to really catch on. Initially, I got, just as an aside, I became disillusioned some years later. When everybody has to write a cookbook and everybody has to have a product. I have no qualms with making money, but so much of it was such of lack of substance to me, right? Yeah. With the exception of my friend Mark Sisson. He's the one who did things right in terms of the products. His products are really good. They're really solid. Try his salad dressings. They're great.
I agree.
So anyway, I came out and I basically talked about just the whole diet and health thing first. At that time, I think I've mentioned this to you before, but at that time, the event was, to me, from my perspective, primarily about creating the content for the internet, for videos and so on online. I mean, so that seemed to be the focus for me in the first two. So that was 2011, 13. Then you blew my mind on 17, because I go in there, there's this huge room. Everything is like, I mean, you had everything, so well-oiled machine, and the suite upstairs where they did the interviews and your help. Who's the guy? Is he still working for you? The guy who did my interview thing? I think he was from Ireland or Irish.
Oh, Nikoley. Yeah, he's still with us. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he'll be in Poland. He has a scheduling issue, but he'll be at our American event later this year.
Yeah. Fantastic. I adore that dude. He's cool to talk to and everything, but he had everything so hot, hip. You had a great team working, right?
Thanks.
It wasn't you like running around. You got to actually kind of be the CEO role, where you walk around and you look at stuff. I call it management. Management by walking around. You just keep your presence. I had that when I was a Navy officer on a ship handling 65 deck crewmen. I had that on my thing. Management by walking around. So you just get out there, you walk around and observe, and the guys see you looking at stuff and everything. It's amazing, and you don't have to say a word. You don't have to say a word, right?
Thanks.
And if something is off, take one of the leader guys, the petty officers, the senior petty officers aside. Hey, can you check that out? No. So it makes management very much easy. So that was my last impression, was the 2017. And I know your 2018 was bigger, you told me. But
yeah, it was twice the size. It was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And the speakers, I wish I'd have heard more of them. I was there, and I was there staying at a friend's place, except for the time, for a few days before and a couple days after. So I devoted some time to that. He did buy a ticket though, for the event, Jim.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time with him. But this time is going to be quite different from me. It will be the first time you see me in a suit and tie for a presentation with well-groomed hair and zero profanity. I think, and I especially think that should be a thing for the chick event later on when you do it. Is that profanity should be outlawed, because we're hopefully we're holding this event for women, right? And we should adopt 007 James Bond gentlemanliness. I just think that would be cool to do. So,
I'm open to the speakers. There'll be a speaker chat where we can talk about these things. There'll be a lot of issues we need to discuss for 22Con, because the audience is so different.
Right.
Ideas like this, you can put them out there. I'm definitely not going to dictate that speakers don't use profanity. Yeah. Zero chance it's going to happen. I don't like censorship. If you do want to modify your language to fit a strategy, that's fine.
And I think some speakers will join you in that.
The only thing I am doing, like hard nosed,
that's how I would like to propose it. Is just like
yeah.
hey, you can do this, so consider doing it, right?
Yeah, and I do agree that women they're for whatever reason they're typically pretty averse to cursing. So, but I think it can still be used. We'll see. I'll probably still curse myself. I don't know if I'll curse as much as usual, but we'll see. I go year to year. I kind of fluctuate, but it's always pretty high. So we'll see.
Yeah.
The one thing though that I am pretty consistent about, not just pretty consistent, I'm extremely consistent, is that there will be no women speakers at the 22 convention. I don't think that's necessary. A lot of people have actually approached me behind the scenes, mostly not speakers, but even a few speakers that I should consider that. And the answer is absolutely zero, absolutely no. I don't think it's, I think it's time that men got to speak exclusively on a platform to women. I think that's actually going to be a turning point in the war on feminism and the war to make the future a lot more positive, a lot more masculine, a lot healthier.
Initially, when you brought it up, I admit that I thought, well, maybe there could be a few women speakers that would be good, but having thought about it longer, I think this is kind of your trademark, right? It's all male speakers all the time. So we're gonna do a conference. Except that we're going to invite the women. In fact, it's going to be focused predominantly on having women as guests, and we're going to have all men speakers. And calling it the mansplaining event in the season is a good marketing hook. I think a little bit of the
mansplaining event of the century.
Yeah. So I have come completely 180 on that. I think you're exactly right. All men speakers.
A lot of people don't understand though. Like they think it's like they think it's anti-women to not allow women to speak on this platform. That I'm designing this way on purpose. Yeah. They're missing the point. The actual goal is not just to have all male speakers. It's to not co-gender the speakers on a stage together. That I think is the actual mistake. It's not having women speak all the time. They give great talks. Like Janice Fiamengo, if I'm saying her name right, is a great female speaker that I love. But this platform is not designed for women because it's not designed to be co-gendered. So if I ever did a conference with women speakers, it would just be all women speakers. I would just do it that way. I wouldn't have male speakers because I don't want to. I think the issue, you dilute the message and you weaken it when you combine them. Like men and women are different. We have different biologies. We have different evolutionary histories. We have different ways we think and live.
This is a conference from this perspective, and the speaker is kind of, another thing I want to do for this is I want to dig through some of the stuff and get some quotes from you and maybe Rollo, and maybe Jack, Socrates, the guys I know the best. Do some of their presentations, their work, and dump some of their quotes into my presentation, right? So that there's like cross pollination, if you know what I mean. And I think that men and men, and then women and women are better suited. So it's like, okay, here's the male perspective for this conference. Here's the female perspective for this conference, right?
I mean, with 22Con, I really think what the men are going to be doing, the speakers, is they're going to be playing like surrogate father / patriarch to millions of women on the internet. These women either didn't have a dad, or their dad was a weak beta bitch, or their mom was a controlling harpy, or whatever combination of what they had growing up. That's been pretty common, I think, over the past couple of decades. You've seen relationships between men and women get a lot less healthy at every stage in life. And then as a result, these women are, they have all this brainwashing from feminism, and then they need to hear a strong masculine counterpoint to that ideology, the very toxic ideology that's very hateful, and I think hates men as well as women and femininity and stuff.
Well, you bring up, I mean, people have seen every sort of example of a decent family or a very dysfunctional family via principally, TV and film, right? But at the same time, I think there's so many I think what has happened over several decades is that there are so many kids that had just really, really awful, dysfunctional upbringings. And then, that's on a scale. I mean, it's from really, really bad to, yeah, it really kind of sucks, and especially as women have, like, everybody talks about, oh, women need to like rise in the workplace. Yeah, it destroys the families, right?
Yeah.
It makes it really sucky for the kids, right? And I have an opposite perspective. I grew up in a pristine family. My mom was at home, even when she did work. It was she was a secretary and bookkeeper and helper at the private school I went to, right?
Yep.
So we went to work and school in the same car every day.
Yep.
My three brothers and I, and then came back every afternoon. And
what that tells me, in my opinion, looking at it, is that she valued family and motherhood over career. So she found a way to make those two work out together in a way that fit your family.
Yes, yeah. And so I have the most pristine experience that you can have. And so, but rather than talking out of hubris or condescension, I feel sorrow. That and even, when I was growing up in school and I understood somewhat about other kids' home situations, I can remember feeling sorry for them and somewhat superior, because it's like, man, it's so great. My home is so great. We do so many cool things. I mean, we went hunting trips, fishing trips, camping trips. I lived across a field from my grandparents. My grandfather was an artist. He back in the 50s and 60s in Reno, Nevada, casinos, before plexiglass signs, all their signs were hand painted. My grandfather painted all of them, and I got to see him paint them in his shop across the field. And my grandmother was his bookkeeper for all the work he did. She had her little desk right in the house, right? So I'm very, very, very privileged, and the older I get, the more mindful of it I am. And when I see stuff, I see how awful it is for some kids out there. Really awful, right?
I fully co-sign that, and at risk of being called Captain Admiral Sabaho or something, I agree. It's sad. Like, feminism is not just toxic and hateful and a supremacist ideology. It's really tragic for children. They get raised in this crap, and they're fed all this kind of anti-nature stuff, where young girls are taught to act like men and young boys are taught to act like women. And it creates a lot of pain and confusion in your life. We call this the blue pill typically in the manosphere. But for women have this too. They're taught all this fucking belligerent bullshit, and it makes them miserable, drunken cat ladies that never reproduce, and they have barren wombs. And then they become alcoholics and then become suicidal. Alcoholism, for example, is rising rapidly right now for women in their 50s. I think that's Gen X women who were raised on feminism, finally coming to grips with the fact that they fucked up. And millennial women, I'm sure it's going to be even worse. So it's like this has to stop, When
we were on the phone the other day, you were talking to me about the newest gen.
Oh, Gen Z. Yeah. There was actually one beyond that, probably not too, but yeah, Gen Z, I think, might be able to help turn things around. They have been raised in a very different culture with the internet, and they are not liking mainstream stuff. They don't give a flying fuck about CNN. They don't like this like top-down authority stuff where they're yelled at for all this stuff. They're becoming very conservative, basically, or something loosely in that direction. They're not liking the liberal fucking fascist crap. So that's pretty good.
Well, that's hopeful.
Yeah. Well, the women turning around though on feminism, we'll see how that if and when that happens. That's a big deal. That's bigger than politics. Like, feminism is more than politics, as we've discussed. It's in the family, it's in your mind, it's in your home, it's in the schools, it's all over the place. So for that to really turn the tide on that, I think men have to step up and do something, and that's what that's what this idea and this convention for 22Con that we'll do
Well, I tell you, like I said, when I saw the video, I decided immediately, and I'm like, I'm going to put it out there to folks. I'm like, Warsaw, Poland, 18 to 21 July is a place to be. Now, and here's another thing. I wanted to say this because I do not like to ever use the word excited. I think it's a word for women in puppy dogs with wagging tails, right? I'm going to make an exception though. I'm excited. I'm excited about this, Anthony. So
thanks, man. I'm glad you're excited and glad to have you out. I'm glad the trailer sold you on the event. Fuck yeah. I want to end this interview with this question. Given your age and your experience in your life and all that, you've been in the Navy, you've been, a business owner, you've done a lot in life, and a blogger too, obviously, for I think since the 90s, right?
2003.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah.
What was America like when feminism was less radical and less insane? Like, obviously, it's been around for a long fucking time, but you are old enough to have experienced America before. Like, my memory of the 90s is that was my childhood. And feminism was already on the rise then. But what about the early 90s and the 80s and stuff like that? What was it like?
So, I'm 58, so born in 1961. So the 60s were my formative years, and, just a little too young to have really experienced the whole hippie free love era in all of its glory. In the early 70s, my parents got involved with pretty religious. I don't ascribe to that anymore, but they did me well. Because principally in seventh grade, so I was like 12. They pulled me out of the regular, junior high school halfway through my seventh grade year. And from then on, I was in a private school, very small. My graduating class was 2 people.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yes. I was in the top 50%.
Nice.
So, but he went on to be an airline pilot. So he did well too. So when I went to, so then I graduated high school late 70s. And so where life really begins for me, like independently, is like 1980, right?
Okay.
I went off to college, spent a year there, came back and did a year in computer work mostly. And then I settled it. I decided I wanted to be a Navy officer. And so I transferred everything over to Oregon State, like 1981, 82. And this is a good story, I guess. So they put me in a dormitory, right? It's an all-male dormitory. I hated it, right? And I'm like, look, there's got to be so there's like a co-ed dormitory. There's 2 of them, Finley Hall. And I go over there. I say, is there any chance I can transfer over there? They're like, sure. So I transfer over to a co-ed dorm, right? So this was feminism. Are you kidding me? I mean, but here was a cool thing. So there's no feminism. There's nothing to speak of. I mean, just unheard of, right? No, didn't even hear of it. Men and women simply just interacted rationally. And
they got along.
Of course, there was plenty of sexual activity going on, some of it drunken. But it just worked. There was no complaint ever of anything ever. You're talking 6 floors and probably 50 rooms per floor. So at least 300 rooms, half men, half women, right? All hormones raging and everything. Not one single complaint ever. Not one single complaint ever. And this is in 1983 and 1984.
Yeah.
So Matt, and look at what it's like now.
Yeah.
I said, hell, I have no idea in that situation today, given today's climate, how it could even possibly work.
It'd be a shitstorm, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is what you're talking about, though, is exactly what I experienced in Poland. I was there for 10, 11 days, so not too long, but a good chunk of time.
Mm-hmm.
And I described it as men and women getting along and how beautiful it was and awesome. But you're putting it a good way too, that there's just no complaints. Like in Poland, I didn't get that feeling. I didn't see it, obviously, overtly, but I didn't get the feeling either implicitly that there was any major complaints men and women had about the opposite sex. Like they just went about their day. Women acted like women, men acted like men. You saw this everywhere you went. Hotels, coffee shops, the street, whatever the fuck.
Back then, women expected to have sexual advances on them. I mean, that's how things work, right? Yep. And men expected to seek out the ones who gave them the little signals, right? The little signals here and there that, hey, why don't you stop over to my room tonight? My roommate's gone, or something like that. Or hey, or the big one is I'm really tight. Can you give me a back rub?
Yeah.
The whole back rub.
Yeah. So. No, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and that's what we need to get back to. I think in the 2000s, when I was starting to interact with women, pick up women, and approach them and stuff, I saw like the last element of that in America start to die out. Like in the 2010s, it feels like this has evaporated in America and the West. It's not completely, I'm sure, but this in major cities is what it feels like. That's gone, and it's been evaporated by a combination of like feminism, political insanity, Instagram, Tinder, all this crazy combination of bullshit.
Yeah. So I think that social media in general is definitely a double-edged sword.
Oh yeah, women are addicted to that shit like crack addicts, man. Like they get highs off it. Like I've seen it labeled as Instagram as World of Warcraft for women. Like they level up with their followers and shit, right? But it's even worse than that. It's like an addiction for them. They get dopamine hits off it and shit.
If they don't get 300 likes, they're like depressed and everything.
Yeah. No, it's an endless vacuum of attention they want to suck up, but they're never happy with it. I put a quote out that went pretty viral, and not super viral, but on Twitter recently. And I said that, women, the hole in your souls will never be filled by, thousands of betas liking your boobs on Instagram. Yeah. Like this isn't going to make you fulfilled and happy and filled with joy. Babies and family will do that. And historically, that's how that works. And your grandmother would have told you that, and her grandmother would have told you that, and all the grandmothers before them, but you're too fucking arrogant to listen. So, and the dream monologue. I think we should start wrapping up. It's a little bit after 2:30 here. Got to get bouncing other stuff. It's crazy fucking busy. Still wrapping up the Patriarch event in some ways.
Really, yeah. And I mean, putting on 3 events in a year, and one of them in a foreign country is a big deal. Yeah.
Yep. Done it before, but it's been a while, so I got to get cracking. Richard, thank you. Thank you for your time.
You have a lot more interest in attendees, and that's almost exponential. The more attendees, it gets really, really hard. When you're having several hundred attendees, at your place, it's like you got to have a lot of moving parts, and they got to be in good sync and well integrated.
Yep. But hey, work's got to get done, and I think it's a lot of fun. We're having a lot of fun at the conventions, and it's very productive work. Just like you said, we're producing the content. The experience is there for the attendees too, and that's important. But long term, my primary goal, of course, is like you said, to create content, because that content gets put out on the internet and it gets replayed endlessly to the extent that censorship doesn't kill everything.
Yep.
So, all right, Richard, thank you for your time. Hat tip. Everyone, make sure you go check out Richard Nikoley at freetheanimal.com. You can also go on our YouTube channel, 21 Studios, punch in Richard Nikoley, and you will pull up his former presentations, interviews, things like that. And I'll get some chat, guys. Yeah, you're welcome, guys. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Meet Richard Nikoley live for his presentation in Poland. That's going to be Warsaw, Poland, July 18th to the 21st, 2019 in Warsaw, Poland, the 21convention.org. And we'll soon be releasing as well Richard's 2017 presentation on YouTube that was on Bitcoin. I forget the exact title, but that'll be out soon.
Great.
So fuck yeah, Rich. Thanks for your time, man.
Thank you, Anthony, and thank you all you good gentlemen, you folks who are continually improving on becoming the ideal man, and I will see you in Poland. So it's a continuous improvement process. No matter how ideal you get, you can still be even more ideal. So
fuck yeah, 100%.
Right.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you, sir.
See you guys. We're gonna go.